The Silver Sleuths Strike Back. Chapter 1. The Discovery. At 80 years old, I've earned the right to be nosy. That's what I tell myself every morning when I shuffle out of my bedroom in Marcus and Alina's house, ready to observe the daily dramas that unfold under this roof, like a particularly engrossing soap opera. My name is Dorothy Callahan, though my friends call me Dot. And I've been living with my grandson Marcus, his wife Elena, and their 2 children for 3 years now. The arrangement works beautifully. I get to spend my golden years surrounded by family, and they get free babysitting, and someone who actually knows how to cook a proper roast. Win-win. But that Tuesday morning, something was off. Elena sat at the kitchen table, staring into her coffee cup like it held the secrets of the universe. Her eyes were red-rimmed, and she kept sniffling quietly, dabbing at her nose with a tissue that had clearly seen better days. "Morning, dear," I said cheerfully, making my way to the kettle. "You're up early." She jumped like I'd fired a starting pistol. "Oh, Dorothy." "Yes, I couldn't sleep. I've been around long enough to recognize when someone's been crying. I've also been around long enough to know when to push and when to wait. This was a waiting situation. I made my tea properly, with loose leaves and a 3-minute steep. None of this tea bag nonsense. And settled into my chair with a strategic sigh that suggested I had all the time in the world and nowhere else to be. Elena lasted approximately 4 minutes before the dam broke. "I think Marcus is having an affair," she whispered. And then the real crying started. The kind that comes from deep in your chest and makes your whole body shake. I set down my teacup with such force that it rattled in its saucer. "Absolutely not," I said firmly. "I raised that boy. Well, his mother raised him, but I had significant input. He would never." "His phone?" Elena choked out. "He's always on his phone. Late-night texts. He says it's work, but he smiles at his screen, Dorothy. He smiles. He deletes messages. Last week, I smelled perfume on his jacket. Not mine. My blood pressure, which my doctor keeps telling me to watch, started doing interesting things. My Marcus? My grandson, who still brought me flowers every Sunday, and teared up during greeting card commercials? Impossible. But then again, I've lived long enough to know that impossible is just another word for, I haven't looked closely enough yet. "Does he know you suspect?" I asked. Elena shook her head miserably. "I haven't said anything. I'm terrified of what I'll find out if I do." I reached across the table and took her hand. It was trembling. "Listen to me, dear. We're going to get to the bottom of this. And if Marcus is being an idiot, which I sincerely doubt, but men have surprised me before, we'll handle it. Together." She looked up at me with hope flickering in her eyes. "How?" I smiled. A plan was already forming, and it involved my most valuable resource. The ladies of the Tuesday afternoon social club. Otherwise known as the fiercest group of elderly women you'd never want to cross. "Leave it to me," I said. "I know people." Chapter 2. Assembling the team. The Tuesday afternoon social club met, as always, at 2 p.m. sharp at Maureen's house. Maureen had the biggest living room and the best biscuits, a combination that made her home the unofficial headquarters of our operation. There were 5 of us in total. Maureen Chen, 78, former librarian and current holder of more dirt on local families than the FBI database. If you wanted to know who was related to whom, who'd gotten divorced in 1987, or which family had a skeleton in their closet, Usually literally. Maureen was your woman. Patricia, Patty, O'Brien, 76, retired lawyer. Who'd spent 40 years specializing in family law. She knew every dirty trick in the divorce playbook and wasn't afraid to use them. She also made a mean martini. Gladys Washington, 82, our technical expert. Yes, 82. Gladys had 6 children, 19 grandchildren, and 32 great-grandchildren. And every single one of them had taught her something about technology. She could hack a Facebook account faster than most teenagers. And had a smartphone with more apps than Silicon Valley. And Ruth Kowalski, 74, former private investigator. Who'd retired after solving one too many murder cases and decided she'd prefer the quiet life. Spoiler alert. She was bored out of her mind. And delighted when anything remotely mysterious happened. I was the baby of the group at 80, which nobody let me forget. Ladies, I announced as I settled into Maureen's floral armchair. We have a situation. 4 sets of eyes locked onto me with laser focus. Patty paused mid-biscuit. Gladys actually looked up from her phone. This was serious. I told them everything Elena had shared. When I finished, the room erupted. That little. Patty started. Now, we don't know for certain. Maureen interrupted, ever the voice of reason. Perfume on the jacket? Ruth said, leaning forward. Classic sign. Could be innocent. Gladys offered, though she didn't sound convinced. I held up my hand. That's why we're going to investigate. Properly. We need facts before we jump to conclusions. Finally, some excitement. Ruth crowed. I've been dying of boredom. Last week's highlight was watching my neighbor argue with a garden gnome. How do we start? Maureen asked, pulling out a notebook. She always took notes. Said it kept her sharp. We start with surveillance, I said. Gladys, can you work your magic on Marcus's social media? Child's play, Gladys said, already tapping away at her phone with surprising speed. Public posts first, then we'll see what we can dig up about his connections. Maureen, I need you to ask around. Quietly. Has anyone heard anything about Marcus? Maureen nodded, making a note. I'll start with my granddaughter. She works at that coffee shop downtown. The one all the young professionals go to. She sees everything. Patty, I need you to look into Alina's legal options. Just in case. I want her protected if this goes south. Patty's expression turned grim and professional. Consider it done. Though I hope it won't come to that. Ruth. I turned to our XPI. I need you to teach me how to follow someone without being noticed. Ruth's eyes lit up like Christmas morning. Oh, this is going to be fun. When do we start? Now, I said firmly. We start now. Chapter 3. Operation Silver Fox. The next morning, I told Elena I was going out with my friends for the day. Not technically a lie. I was meeting Ruth for Surveillance Training 101. She picked me up in her ancient Honda Civic at 9 a.m. sharp, looking like she'd just won the lottery. First rule of tailing someone, Ruth said as we drove toward Marcus's office building, is to be boring. No flashy clothes, no standing out. You want to be the human equivalent of beige wallpaper. I looked down at my sensible gray cardigan and orthopedic shoes. I think I've got that covered. Second rule. Keep your distance. Third rule. Always have a cover story. If you're spotted, you're just a confused old lady who got turned around. Works every time. We parked across the street from Marcus's architecture firm with a clear view of the entrance. Ruth handed me a pair of binoculars. Isn't this a bit obvious? I asked. We're birdwatching, Ruth said, pulling out an actual bird guidebook. See? I came prepared. If anyone asks, we're looking for the rare lesser-spotted corporate pigeon. I snorted. You're ridiculous. I'm prepared. There's a difference. We sat there for 3 hours. Marcus left the building twice. Once for coffee, once for what looked like a lunch meeting with 3 colleagues. Nothing suspicious. He was on his phone a lot, but so was everyone else on the street. This is boring. I complained around hour 2. Most surveillance is, Ruth said cheerfully. That's why everyone thinks they want to be a detective until they actually try it. It's 90% waiting and 10%. Oh, who's that? A woman had approached Marcus on the street. Young, maybe 30, with long dark hair and a navy business suit. They talked for a few minutes, and I held my breath, watching through the binoculars. Marcus smiled. Laughed at something she said. They stood close. Maybe too close? Then she walked away, and Marcus went back inside. Did you see that? I hissed. I saw 2 colleagues talking on the street, Ruth said carefully. But yes, let's keep her in mind. That evening, the group assembled via video call. Gladys had insisted we use encrypted messaging, just to be safe, which seemed excessive but made her happy. Report, I said, feeling very official. Gladys went first. Marcus's social media is clean. Almost suspiciously clean. No inappropriate comments, no tagged photos with mystery women. But here's the interesting bit. His phone records. You didn't. Patty said. I didn't hack anything, Gladys said primly. I simply convinced his phone provider that I was his very concerned grandmother who needed to check on his data usage for medical reasons. They were very helpful once I started crying. I was simultaneously horrified and impressed. There's one number he calls and texts frequently, Gladys continued. Not saved under a name, just digits. Very suspicious. I'm running it now. Maureen? I prompted. My granddaughter says Marcus comes in for coffee every morning at 7:30, always alone. He sits by the window, works on his laptop, nothing unusual. But, and this is interesting. About 2 weeks ago, a woman started showing up at the same time. They don't sit together, but they are aware of each other. My granddaughter's exact words were, they have vibes. Vibes? Patty repeated skeptically. Vibes. Maureen confirmed. It's what the young people say now. It means there's something going on. Dark hair? I asked. Navy suits? Often, yes. Why? I told them about the woman from surveillance. The room fell silent. Right. Ruth said finally. Tomorrow, we follow her. Chapter 4. The plot thickens. The mysterious woman's name was Vanessa Chen. No relation to Maureen, who checked immediately. Gladys found her on LinkedIn within 20 minutes. 28 years old, worked in marketing for a tech company, recently moved to town from Seattle. Pretty, Maureen noted, looking at her profile photo. Younger, Patty added grimly. But is she a homewrecker? I asked. That's what we need to know. Ruth and I resumed surveillance the next morning. This time at the coffee shop. We sat in the corner with newspapers and terrible coffee, watching Marcus and Vanessa through the sports section. They arrived separately, as Maureen's granddaughter had described. Marcus at 7:28, Vanessa at 7:33. They didn't sit together. Didn't even acknowledge each other at first. But then I saw it. The briefest eye contact, the smallest smile. Marcus typed something on his phone. 30 seconds later, Vanessa checked hers and bit her lip, fighting a grin. They're texting each other, I whispered to Ruth, while sitting 20 feet apart. Could be work-related, Ruth suggested, but she didn't sound convinced. After 45 minutes, Vanessa packed up and left. Marcus waited exactly 3 minutes before following. We've got a pattern, Ruth said grimly. And patterns don't lie. That afternoon, Gladys delivered the crushing blow. She'd tracked down Vanessa's social media. All of it. This girl is everywhere, Gladys said, scrolling through her phone. Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, Twitter. She posts everything. Her breakfast, her workouts, her thoughts on the weather. And? I prompted. And there are hints. Subtle ones, but they're there. 3 weeks ago, she posted a picture of coffee with the caption, "Best part of my morning," with a winking emoji. 2 weeks ago, "Some risks are worth taking." Last week, "Happiness is closer than you think." That could mean anything, Maureen said. Except, Gladys continued. She also posted a photo of the waterfront at sunset. The exact same spot where Marcus took Elena on their first date. I cross-referenced with Elena's old Facebook photos. Same bench, same angle. The room fell silent. I'm going to kill him, I said flatly. I'm 80 years old, I'll get off on a technicality. Patty said gently. We still don't have proof. Circumstantial evidence, yes. But proof? No. Then we get proof, I said. Ruth, what do we need? Photos. Messages. Something concrete that Elena can use. Gladys, can you get into his phone? Probably, but that's illegal. Very illegal. Even I have limits. What if we arranged for them to meet somewhere public? Maureen suggested. Set a trap? I thought about that. No, that's too risky. What if we're wrong? Then what? Patty asked. I looked around at my friends. These fierce, loyal, brilliant women who'd dropped everything to help me. And suddenly, I knew exactly what we needed to do. We go directly to the source, I said. We find out everything about Vanessa Chen. Everything. Her secrets, her vulnerabilities, her pressure points. And then we make a call. Ruth grinned. Now you're thinking like a detective. Chapter 5. Deep Dive. Over the next week, we conducted what Gladys called comprehensive research, and what Patty called borderline stalking. Maureen handled family history. She discovered that Vanessa came from money. Old Seattle money, the kind that came with expectations and pressure. She had 2 older brothers, both lawyers, and parents who'd never quite forgiven her for choosing marketing over medicine. Gladys tackled the digital footprint. She found blog posts Vanessa had written in college about feeling lost and searching for purpose. She found a deleted Twitter account from 3 years ago, where Vanessa had complained about a previous relationship that ended badly when she'd been caught messaging someone else's boyfriend. The tweets were gone, but the internet never forgets, and Gladys had archives. Ruth investigated Vanessa's current life. She followed her to yoga classes, grocery stores, and weekend brunches with friends. She noted that Vanessa lived alone, had recently broken a lease in Seattle to move here, and seemed anxious. Constantly checking her phone, looking over her shoulder. Patty compiled everything into what she called the file. It was thorough, detailed, and absolutely damning. "She's done this before," Patty said, flipping through pages. "The pattern is identical. Find someone established, someone with something to lose. Get close. Create excitement. And she always moves cities afterward." "She's running," Maureen added. "Running from consequences, from her family's disappointment, from herself." I stared at the file, feeling a strange mix of anger and pity. Vanessa wasn't some evil seductress from a movie. She was a young woman making terrible choices, leaving destruction in her wake. But she was trying to destroy my grandson's marriage, and that I could not allow. "We still need confirmation," I said. "One more surveillance run. I need to be absolutely certain before we do this." Ruth nodded. "Tomorrow night. Marcus told Elena he's working late, right?" I'd been monitoring his schedule through Elena, who'd started sharing everything with me. "Tomorrow, Thursday, he claimed he had a big presentation to finish and would be at the office until 9. "Right," I said. "Let's see if he's really at the office." Chapter 6. The Stakeout. Thursday evening, Ruth and I sat in her Civic outside Marcus's office building, thermoses of coffee and determination keeping us warm. Patty was on phone standby. Gladys was monitoring his location through. I didn't ask how. Maureen was at home with Elena, keeping her distracted with a movie night. At 6:15 p.m., Marcus left the building. "He's on the move," I reported into our group text. We followed at a careful distance as Marcus drove across town, not toward home but toward the new Riverside development. Expensive apartments, trendy restaurants, the kind of place young professionals lived. He parked in front of a modern building and went inside. "Apartment 412, Ruth said, checking the building directory through her binoculars. V. Chen. My heart sank. There it was. Undeniable proof. We waited. At 7 p.m., lights came on in a fourth-floor window. At 8:30, through Ruth's binoculars, I could see two silhouettes moving in the apartment. Close together. Too close. "I've seen enough," I said, feeling about 1,000 years old. Ruth squeezed my shoulder. "I'm sorry, Dot. Don't be sorry. Be ready. Tomorrow, we end this." That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in my bed in Marcus and Alina's house, listening to the sounds of my grandson coming home late, tiptoeing past my door like a teenager sneaking in after curfew. I'd changed his diapers. Taught him to tie his shoes. Sat through every school play and soccer game. Held him when his parents divorced, when his dog died, when his first girlfriend broke his heart. And now I had to save him from his own stupidity. At 3 a.m., I got up and made tea. Found Elena in the kitchen, crying quietly. "I know," I said simply. She looked up, mascara stained and broken. "You know?" "I know. And tomorrow, we fix it." Chapter 7. The Call. Friday afternoon. Storm clouds gathering outside, appropriately dramatic. The ladies of the Tuesday afternoon social club assembled at my request at Maureen's house. "It's time," I said. We'd rehearsed this. Planned every word. I had the file in front of me, Vanessa's number programmed into my phone, and 4 of the fiercest women I'd ever known backing me up. "You sure about this?" Patty asked. "Once you make this call, there's no going back." "I'm sure," I said. At exactly 4 p.m., as thunder rumbled outside, I dialed the number. She answered on the 3rd ring. Hello? Young voice, slightly confused. She didn't recognize the number. Vanessa Chen, I said, my voice steady despite my racing heart. We need to talk about Marcus Callahan. Silence. Then. Who is this? My name is Dorothy. I'm Marcus's grandmother. And I know everything. I could hear her breathing quicken. I don't know what you're talking about. Don't insult my intelligence, dear. I'm old, not stupid. You've been seeing my grandson for 3 weeks. Coffee at 7:30 every morning at Henderson's. Late night texts. Last night, he was at your apartment until 10:30. Are you spying on me? Her voice went up an octave. I'm protecting my family, I said calmly. Now, shall we discuss your situation? Or should I start calling your family instead? Another silence. What do you want? I want you to listen very carefully, I said. And I want you to understand that I am not making threats. I am stating facts. I opened the file. You moved here from Seattle 6 months ago after an incident with your boss's husband. Before that, Portland. Before that, San Francisco. You have a pattern, Vanessa. That's not. Your parents don't know about any of it. They think you're doing well, focusing on your career. They don't know you were asked to leave your last job. They don't know about the restraining order that woman in Portland filed against you. Her breath caught. How do you? Your older brother James is up for partner at his firm. Very prestigious. But firms do background checks on families now, did you know that? Especially after that scandal in their Seattle office. One whisper of impropriety, and it could derail his entire career. You wouldn't. But her voice shook. I would do anything to protect my family, I said, and I meant it. Just as I imagine James's wife would do anything to protect hers. She's pregnant with their first child, isn't she? How lovely. It would be a shame if holiday dinners became awkward. The silence stretched. Rain started pelting the windows. What do you want from me? Vanessa whispered. I want you to end this. Tonight. A clean break. No drama, no goodbye, no explanation. You block his number, you stop going to that coffee shop, you delete his contact information. You disappear from his life as quietly as you entered it. And if I don't? Then I make a series of phone calls. Starting with your mother, who I believe is on the board of the Seattle Arts Foundation. Then your brother. Then your employer. Then possibly the local newspaper, which I understand loves a good human interest story about. Stop. Her voice broke. Just stop. I'll do it. I'll end it. Tonight. I repeated. By midnight. Because if Marcus receives any communication from you after that time, all bets are off. Do we understand each other? Yes. She whispered. Good. And Vanessa? I softened my voice just slightly. Get some help. Talk to someone. This pattern of yours. It's destroying lives, including your own. You deserve better than this, even if you don't believe it. I hung up before she could respond. The room exploded. That was brilliant. Ruth crowed. Absolutely terrifying. Maureen said admiringly. Remind me never to cross you. Patty added, raising her martini glass. Gladys just grinned and gave me a thumbs up. I set down the phone and realized my hands were shaking. Someone get me a proper drink, I said. I think I've earned it. Chapter 8. The Aftermath. Saturday morning dawned clear and bright, the storm having washed away all evidence of yesterday's drama. I shuffled into the kitchen to find Marcus already there, looking puzzled and oddly relieved at the same time. "Morning, Gran," he said. "Morning, dear. Coffee? Please." He ran a hand through his hair. "Weird thing happened yesterday." My heart skipped. "Oh? That friend from work I mentioned. The one I'd been helping with her portfolio? She texted me last night, saying she'd found someone else to help and wished me well. Really abrupt. Kind of strange." I busied myself with the coffee maker. Perhaps she felt uncomfortable accepting help from a married man, I suggested carefully. Marcus blinked. Actually, that might be it. I never thought of it that way. I was just trying to be nice, you know? Give her advice since she's new to town. But yeah, I guess it could have looked weird." "Could have?" Alina's voice came from the doorway. She looked tired but hopeful. "What could have looked weird?" Marcus turned to her. "Elena, I'm so sorry. I've been an idiot." My eyebrows rose. This wasn't scripted. "There was this woman from work," he continued. "She was new in town, asked for career advice. I was helping her with her portfolio, that's all. But I realize now how it must have looked. All the texting, the meeting up for coffee. I was just trying to be helpful, but I wasn't thinking about how it would affect us. How it would make you feel." Alina's eyes filled with tears. "You weren't. You didn't." "What? No. God, no. Elena, I would never." She was practically a stranger. I was just being, I don't know, a mentor or something. But I see now how incredibly stupid that was. How it looked. And I'm so sorry." I slipped out of the room as they embraced, leaving them to their reconciliation. Some things should be private. Chapter 9. Tea and Triumph. The following Tuesday, the ladies of the Tuesday Afternoon Social Club gathered at Maureen's house as always. But this time, there was an extra guest. Elena sat among us, nervous but determined. "I wanted to thank you all," she said. "Dorothy told me everything. What you did for me, for my family. I don't know how to repay you." "Nonsense," Maureen said warmly. "That's what friends do." "Besides," Ruth added with a grin, "that was the most fun I've had in years. Very invigorating." "Should we be concerned that you enjoyed it quite that much?" Patty asked dryly. "Probably," Ruth admitted. Elena laughed, then grew serious. "I checked on Vanessa, you know. Online. She's deleted all her social media except LinkedIn, and that says she's moving back to Seattle. Taking time to focus on personal growth." "Good for her," I said, and meant it. Maybe she'll actually do the work this time. "Do you think Marcus really didn't know?" Elena asked. "That he was just being oblivious?" "I considered that. I think," I said slowly, "that Marcus is a good man who was flattered by a pretty young woman's attention and didn't think about the consequences. I think he was being foolish and selfish, but not malicious. And I think he loves you very much." "He's been much better," Elena said with a small smile. "More present. Actually puts his phone away during dinner now. And he's started this thing where he brings me coffee in bed on Saturdays. Says he wants to make sure I know I'm the only woman he wants to have coffee with." "That's sweet," Maureen said warmly. "And cheesy," Ruth added with a grin. "Very cheesy," Elena agreed. "But I'll take it." Here, Gladys said, raising her teacup. We clinked cups together, A circle of women spanning generations and experiences, bound by loyalty and love. And a shared understanding that sometimes, protecting your family means doing hard things. So, Ruth said after a moment, eyes twinkling mischievously, anyone else have any problems that need solving? I'm ready for our next mission. We all laughed. Actually, Maureen said thoughtfully, my neighbor's been complaining about someone stealing packages from her porch. And just like that, the Silver Sleuths were back in business. Epilogue. 1 year later. I sit in my usual chair in Maureen's living room, knitting needles clicking rhythmically as I work on yet another scarf. This one's for Marcus. Navy blue, his favorite color. The Tuesday afternoon social club is in full swing around me. Patty's telling some complicated story about her grandson's divorce. We're taking notes, naturally. Gladys is teaching Maureen's granddaughter how to use some new app that tracks everything. Ruth is planning our next adventure. Apparently, there's a suspicious food truck that needs investigating. My phone buzzes. A photo from Elena. My newest great-granddaughter, 2 months old and perfect. Wrapped in one of my hand-knitted blankets. The text reads, she's napping. Finally. Join us for dinner tonight? Marcus is making his famous lasagna. I smile and text back my acceptance. A year ago, I made a phone call on a stormy night that changed several lives. Sometimes I wonder if I did the right thing, if I had the right to interfere so dramatically. Then I remember Alina's tears. Marcus's regret. The family that almost broke apart but instead grew stronger. And I remember that sometimes, being fierce isn't about being loud or aggressive. Sometimes, it's about being steady, strategic, and absolutely certain of what you're protecting and why. I'm 81 years old now. I still live with my grandson's family, still knit scarves, still attend Tuesday afternoon tea with the fiercest group of women I've ever known. And if anyone ever threatens my family again? Well, let's just say I know exactly what to do. Ruth calls out, interrupting my thoughts. Are you in for Thursday? We're staking out that suspicious food truck. I look around at my friends. My co-conspirators, my found family, my partners in crime. Mostly legal crime. Wouldn't miss it. I say, and mean it with every fiber of my being. After all, I've earned the right to be nosy. And nobody threatens what's mine.